I wish to have one highly specific and mundane vision of my future while in an optometrist's office and not see any lotto numbers or world events. Whew, it's quite a bit of smoke. No smoke detector in this room. All right, the birthday wish. Let's get into it. The birthday wish kind of hits that post-holiday lull. The movie does include sort of a brief mention of New Year's. You see New Year's and then it's done. That's it. Most of the movie takes place after New Year's. It's kind of a weird time to set a movie in. You're after New Year's, but it's not Valentine's Day yet. There's nothing really beautiful or interesting to really designate the season. It's just that part of winter where everything is dreary and cold and depressing. Like snow has stopped being magical flurries from the sky and is just now that dirty thing on the ground everywhere that you have to walk through. It's not a great time for a love story. You know how sometimes you wake up in the morning and you start getting ready and maybe you slept a little late and you're kind of hurrying and you look in the mirror and what you see looking back at you is not great, but you just kind of have to shrug and say, good enough. This is kind of the movie version of that. It is just made to fill a time slot and was not really intended to be looked at in depth or analyzed in any way. So here's my in-depth analysis of the Hallmark Channel movie, The Birthday Wish. Here's the actual movie description from Hallmark Channel. A woman expecting to get engaged on her all-important 30th birthday gets a different surprise after she makes a birthday wish. A glimpse into her future, which doesn't resemble anything she's ever imagined for herself. And that's basically it. The movie is basically that. The main character is a woman named Gwen who works as a director, sort of freelance for an ad agency, I guess. And she does commercial shoots for television. And she's often paired with this man named Dave, who is the creative director. And the two of them just work so well together, yet they kind of butt heads. But their chemistry is undeniable. Meanwhile, Gwen is dating a TV weatherman named Alex Stone, who's a huge douchebag. Because Gwen is kind of a control freak and she's living her life by a list that I guess she wrote when she was 13, where she wants to get engaged by the time she's 30. So she's pretty much hoping that her douchebag weatherman boyfriend will propose on New Year's, but he doesn't. And then she's hoping that he'll propose on her birthday, but he doesn't. And they actually have him give her as a present a smart ring, like a smartphone or a smartwatch. They invented this item just so they could have the gag where he puts a ring box on the table and she starts to get all excited and emotional and then opens it up and realizes that it's a stupid present. So she's so disappointed that she leaves her own birthday party early, and then Dave comes over to her house and brings her a cookie, and when he finds out that she didn't blow out the candles on her cake, he puts a match in the cookie for her to blow out. When she does, she wishes that she could just see 10 years into the future to know how everything turns out. The next morning she wakes up and can't really see, so she stumbles her way to the optometrist, who's maybe a wizard? I don't know. He's subbing in for her regular optometrist. She doesn't recognize him. Even when she can see again, she can't recognize him. And he puts in maybe magical eye drops that he says will help her see things clearly. And then she has a single vision of the future where she sees herself with a minivan, 3 kids, a dog, and Dave wearing a sock monkey hat, and apparently they're married and this is their family. Anyway, so throughout the movie, Alex Stone, the douchebag boyfriend weatherman, continues to be a douchebag and her boyfriend and a weatherman until eventually the connection with her and Dave grows so strong, and Alex kind of realizes that he's losing her, so right when she's about to break up with him to be like, no, I want to be with Dave, Alex, the douchebag boyfriend, who doesn't want to be a weatherman anymore at this point. He wants to go to Hollywood and be an actor, but that's not important. Anyway, he proposes, and Dave sees and then storms off. But Gwen, of course, says no to the proposal, runs after Dave, and the two of them kiss, and then it flashes forward to a year in the future, to her next birthday, where she's blowing out the candle on her cake, and Dave is there, and then he proposes, and then they're engaged, and then it flashes forward one more time, 10 years into the future, till you see the moment that would be the vision that she saw earlier in the movie. The end! Isn't that just a ride? So there are 4 different points about this very simple movie that I would like to discuss with you today. That is how in-depth I went. From that thing I just described to you, there are 4 points that I want to talk about. Point 1 is just the general visions of the future trope. It's usually more common around Christmas. I think it's because of the popularity of A Christmas Carol. Scrooge was kind of the original spinster. He was so career-oriented and focused on what he wants, and he didn't get married, he didn't have kids, and then he found out he was gonna die alone, and then decided to change his ways and form human connections. And Hallmark has really kind of latched onto that concept. In fact, I think there was a Christmas movie that just came out last year on Hallmark that stars Candice Berkay. Is that how you say your name? I think I heard her say her own name once in a Hallmark commercial, and it was Candice Cameron Berkay, because she's fancy. But it stars her, and there's something about shoes. She really loves shoes, and she has visions of the future, and it convinces her to change her present. This is not to be confused with the concept where a woman hits her head or makes a wish and then wakes up in an alternate version of her present, where sometime in her past she made a different decision. Perhaps she didn't break up with a certain guy, or she didn't make a move, sort of like the Jenny Garth movie Holidays. So the visions of the future trope is very different from visions of the alternate present, and the two are not to be confused. It did not go in this movie the way that I thought it was going to. She had just the one vision. She woke up with, her eyes blurry, went to an optometrist, had one vision, and then later on she would have something weird happen that wasn't exactly a vision, but she went back to the optometrist's office. While she didn't have a vision of the future, the eye chart did magically spell out Dave. So that's it for the supernatural component. I really thought it would be the kind of circumstance where she goes to bed and then she wakes up the next morning and her house is slightly different. And who put these children's toys on the stairs? And who hung these pictures of me and my coworker Dave with these children I don't recognize? What a funny joke. This is so silly. What? That's how I thought it was gonna go. But that's not how it went. And then when she had the one vision, I thought, oh, okay, this is visions, and she's gonna have them at really weird, inopportune moments, and they're gonna kind of predict something that's about to happen in a roundabout way. And it was just the one vision. So I was really disappointed on that count. I really thought they should have done more with that concept, and they never really explained to my satisfaction whether or not the optometrist and his eye drops were actually magic. And now I'm just gonna have to wonder that for the rest of my life, unless I track down the director of this movie, a man named Peter DeLuise, who has directed other things before. He was an unnamed extra in about 16 episodes of Stargate SG-1, and I believe he was a director for Stargate as well. He also directed 2 episodes of Shadowhunters, so that's an interesting pedigree for a director. Stargate SG-1, Hallmark romance movies, 2 episodes of Shadowhunters, and a bunch of other things that I just didn't recognize and therefore don't remember off the top of my head. Tell me, Peter, was the optometrist magic? Or were the eye drops magic? Was it the wish? Was it the cookie she ate? We'll never know. The second point that I would like to discuss, I actually touched on briefly already, which were the actual visions or vision and one hallucination that Gwen had. The vision of her and the minivan and the 3 kids and the dog and Dave and the sock monkey hat gave little tidbits that then were interspersed throughout the rest of the movie. Like in the vision, one of the kids mentioned something about her macadamia nut allergy, and Gwen doesn't have a macadamia nut allergy. And because she's so put off by the vision, she eats fistfuls of macadamia nuts at work and breaks out in hives. And therefore, guess what? She does have a macadamia nut allergy. And like, there's a thing where she's afraid of dogs, and Dave has to help her learn to not be afraid of dogs because they're filming an ad for a dog food commercial. Filming an ad for a commercial. They're filming an ad for a dog food company. So Dave helps her get over her fear of dogs by playing in a pile of puppies. Oh, this woman's life is so hard. There's a scarf she's wearing in the vision that you see the reflection of her in the minivan window, you know, adjusting the scarf. And towards the end of the movie, Dave gives her his scarf and she realizes it's a scarf from her vision. So that's kind of how that one vision plays with the rest of the movie. It is interesting that later she tries to trigger a vision by going back to the optometrist, and that's when she hallucinates the eye chart reading Dave. Even later, she tries to trigger another vision by recreating the circumstances of what preceded the first vision. She gets the leftover cookie, she puts a match in it, she blows the match out and makes a wish, but it doesn't work, she doesn't get another vision. So much more could have been done with that concept. If you're going to introduce a supernatural concept with a potentially magical optometrist, then you gotta go all in. You gotta go all in. There need to be like eyeball jokes. There need to be more jokes about seeing. Like you gotta do it. You gotta commit. The third thing I would like to discuss with you is the cliche douchebag boyfriend. And not even just him specifically, but the concept of how these movies always have the cliche douchebag boyfriend. So Gwen and Dave are getting very close to each other throughout the movie, even while she is in a relationship with Alex Stone, the weatherman boyfriend. You want to kind of be rooting for her and Dave because they have so much in common and he really gets her and she can be herself with him. But then you kind of keep remembering, like, no, she's in a relationship. And in these movies, they always set up the existing partner as a huge douchebag or is like kind of a bitch. So that way you don't really feel so bad that the lead is essentially having an emotional affair with the other lead before they actually end up getting together in the end. Like, I feel as if we're not supposed to acknowledge that that's inappropriate what they're doing. Instead, we're supposed to root for their budding relationship. And the only way to do that is by having the existing partner just be so over the top terrible. Like at one point, when Gwen has all the hives and is itchy, Alex basically shows up to remind her that there's an event she was supposed to go to with him and then ditch her. And then immediately afterwards, Dave shows up with soup to show you the contrast between the two men. It's over the top, so that way you don't think that Gwen is a terrible person. Also, the mom hates Alex, and when she's like, I'm disappointed Alex didn't propose to me, the mom's like, well, maybe you should just break up. And Gwen's friend also is like, I'm so happy about what's happening with you and Dave. And Gwen's like, but what about my boyfriend, Alex? Like, aren't I kind of terrible? And the friend's like, yeah, it's fine. Yeah, I'm rooting for Dave. I guess the friend is supposed to be there to reassure the audience, like no. Here's another person who's outside of the two romantic leads saying that it's totally okay, so it's fine. Gwen's not a terrible person. Don't worry about it. And they could just have Gwen break up with Alex early on in the movie, realize, oh, we're not really right together, and since I do really want to get married soon, I should look for a partner who really suits me better and is someone that I could build a life with. But then they wouldn't have any conflict. So they need to have Gwen be in a relationship to add that conflict and to kind of add a reason of why she doesn't just say, I had a really cool vision of the future and it told me that I'm gonna be with Dave and we're gonna be happy, so like, I'm just gonna go do that. No, they need the conflict of her saying no to Dave and being in the relationship and not knowing what to do, and then it going up and down and up and down and up and down till eventually she picks Dave in the end, and we're supposed to cheer and be so happy that their love won. Except that she was basically, like, they were admitting having some kind of feelings for each other, or at least Dave was openly telling her that he had feelings for her, and she was in a relationship with somebody else. I feel like the most fun character to play in this would be the douchebag boyfriend. Everyone else was just kind of bland and just like going about their lives, but he was like hamming it up, talking in this like really pretentious voice and gazing lovingly at a picture of himself and grabbing fistfuls of sushi and stuffing his face. Like, that guy seemed like he was having a blast. If I was in a Hallmark movie, I would want to play like the bitchy girlfriend, because that seems like it would be way more fun than anything else. You're supposed to be an over-the-top villain, so that way you will make people root for the two romantic leads and root for your significant other to dump your ass. And that's kind of how a lot of these movies are structured. They need to have the conflict of the pre-existing relationship, because they don't really have anything else going on. It's not like a Nicholas Sparks romance where there's some sort of external drama, like a war, or death, or Alzheimer's or something, that keeps the two leads apart. All that Hallmark's really got the budget for is just an existing romantic partner. And we're just supposed to pretend that it's all okay. The fourth thing that I would like to talk about, it's the category of weird observations with a bunch of sub-bullets. So the first sub-bullet would be their careers. So Gwen is a director and Dave is a creative director, and they film ads. But they kind of both seem to be freelancers. Like, they get clients through an agency. At one point, Gwen texts her agent about trying to get off of a job. That's not how freelancing works. Like, you don't have an agent. So now I'm thinking that maybe when they said that they were getting clients through the agency and the agency wants to pair them up, the person who wrote the show was picturing like a modeling agency type of agency, an agency that kind of recruits talent and then finds jobs for them. But I was picturing more of like a creative or advertising agency, because that would make a lot more sense. If you're a dog food company and you need to film an ad, you're gonna look for an ad agency. Except then it's weird that the ad agency is hiring a director and a creative director who have nothing to do with each other, and they didn't even mention where the crew was coming from. It didn't seem to be her crew, it didn't seem to be his crew. They were just kind of there, and it was the same crew every time. But that doesn't make any sense, because even if the agency was subcontracting out to someone else for these jobs, they would probably look for another agency that had all of the resources in-house. They wouldn't be kind of piecing it out and hiring different people, because that's a lot to manage. Then you have to deal with the invoices and touching base with all those people and answering questions and making sure they're communicating with each other. It's so much more work. Plus, the ads that they're filming are stupid. The first ad is for jewelry insurance, and it's a man and a woman out on a balcony, and the man's proposing to the woman, and he puts the ring in the champagne glass, and then she knocks back the champagne glass, and then when she puts the glass down, the ring is gone because she swallowed it. And the guy makes this face, and it's supposed to be hilarious. And you know it's supposed to be hilarious because at the brief New Year's party, they show the ad for some reason, and everyone laughs. And the storyboards they do are terrible. They're these like weird cartoon things. I'll take some screenshots and add them somewhere in this video. And then the second ad they work on is like crazy sexist. It's for a bakery, and the concept for the ad is that a man and woman are fighting, and then the man gives the woman a cookie, and not only do they stop fighting, but he turns into a literal superhero. And then also that scene brings a great delivery of the line, "She has to eat the cookie," because the actress playing the woman doesn't want to eat the cookie in the ad because she's on a low-carb diet. So Gwen lies to her and tells her that it's a high-protein cookie. So then the woman's like, "Oh, okay," and happily eats the cookie. And everyone's like, "Oh, Gwen, you're so resourceful and not at all a liar." And then there's a dog food ad. And when they're kind of like brainstorming for the dog food ad, Dave says something like, "Let's do something really different. I'm thinking we film it from the point of view of the dog." "Yeah, Dave, because that's never been done before. No one's ever filmed a pet food ad from the perspective of the pet. You're a genius." And then there's whatever's happening with the minivan. You're doing an ad for a minivan, and it turns out that it's the minivan from her vision, and she's all like, "Oh, I need to sit down." Dave tells her that she can drive the minivan for as long as she wants so she can research for the commercial, because that's apparently how advertising works and nobody told me. Since she still has that same minivan in her vision 10 years in the future, she just decided to keep it. She decided to, really leverage that statement where he said that she could use it as long as she wanted. And she's like, okay, and 10 years later, she's like, I still got it. And I guess in that 10 years, she also didn't decide to get a new vehicle. If they had kids, they would want to get the safest, newest minivan for their 3 children and not the one that they've already had for however many years that she stole from a commercial set. There's a weird commercial for something that I think is supposed to be a restaurant, but it's filmed on a set to look like a booth in a restaurant. So if it was an ad for a restaurant, you think the restaurant would want it filmed in the restaurant rather than a set. But it couldn't be for food delivery, because if it was for food delivery, they would film the family eating at home as opposed to in the restaurant. What are they doing? And they're getting a lot of jobs. Like the key job at the end that they're on when like everything goes down, where Alex proposes, Dave sees, he storms off, that's at a ski resort, and that's an overnight shoot. There was talk about a ranch dressing company, and there was also an infomercial. Like pet food and ranch dressing could be pretty big accounts, but jewelry insurance and a late night blender infomercial are not. Why would they be filming an ad for a single minivan style and not like a dealership or something like that, or a car company? None of it makes any sense, because Hallmark did not expect anybody to think about it quite this much. They never saw me coming. So the next sub-bullet, because remember, we're in point 4, sub-bullet 2. When Gwen was 13, her dad died, which is why she made that list that she decided to live her whole life by, because she always wanted to feel in control. That happened when she was 13, now she's turned 30. And towards the end of the movie, she calls her mom, and she finds out that her mom is seeing somebody, and she says, "But Mom, aren't you worried that you'll get your heart broken? After what happened to Dad?" That was like 17 years ago. You don't think your mom has moved on in 17 years? Like, her mom's probably been dating almost this whole time and just didn't tell Gwen because Gwen's a weird control freak and has a lot of other issues and a job that nobody understands. Also, when they do the flash forward 1 year to Gwen's next birthday, you see that the mom is engaged. So I guess that everything worked out for her too. She got engaged before the daughter. And then sub-bullet 3 is just that Gwen has a clapper fireplace in her home. That's it. That's at one point she's got to go somewhere and she realizes she has a fireplace on. She's just like, oh. And then the fireplace turns off and she runs out the door. I kind of want one. And it's also really weird that she left her own birthday party early. Like, I wouldn't want to be one of the guests that stays after the birthday person leaves. That would be weird. Like, what do you do when it's time to cut the cake? It's a birthday cake, and do you just not sing? You just all silently gather around the birthday cake and just solemnly cut pieces out, all keenly aware that this is very awkward because the person whose birthday it is has apparently left for a reason that you do not understand. This cake has many tiers, and that's why I'm kind of cutting. I advise never cutting a cake from this angle. Don't overdo it. Oh, I almost forgot. There's another weird thing in this movie that puts it slightly offbeat for me. When Gwen and Dave are in the car with their friend's kids for some reason, Dave starts singing the song John Jacob Jingleheimer Schmidt with them. And I don't know if you ever sang the song as a kid, but the lyrics as I know them go, John Jacob Jingleheimer Schmidt, his name is my name too. Well, in the car, Dave sings the lyrics as John Jacob Jingleheimer Schmidt, that's my name too. There's something about it that's off enough to be grating. And they sang a couple lines of this song, and every time I was like, oh my God, stop. Ah. Considering the time of year that this movie takes place, and just kind of how non-special and bland and dull both the time of year and this movie are, it's sort of like the canned soup of movies, if you think about it. For the Christmas movies, they're very, hearty, and there's so much going on. And also around Christmas, you're more likely to do some cooking, to go and buy some fresh vegetables, to chop them up, to heat everything in a pot, or to maybe make some sort of hearty stew in a crock pot and really put effort into it and make a nice meal for yourself and maybe your loved ones or your cats. I don't know, whatever you got going on. Then after the holidays, you're kind of tired. You're probably like on a diet. It's cold and all snowy, and you don't feel like going to the grocery store and buying fresh vegetables, much less chopping them up and cooking them. So it's just soup out of a can. It's there, it's fine, it's high in sodium, so it's not really that great for you, but it's still soup. And that's kind of what this movie is. It's there, it's fine, it's not really that great, but it's still a movie. I got a cat. I don't know if you can see her. She hates all of this.
What do you think? What's your birthday wish?
Gets a different surprise after she makes her birthday wish. A glimpse. What?